to our consent agenda, which is to request to approve the following. Special license, the event is Wine with the Wild Women of Westford. The applicant is Linda Green of the Westford Historical Society. The date is September 12th, 2025. Time is 6:30 to 6:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. at the Western Museum, 2 Boston Road. Also an event, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to illuminate the gazebo with purple lights. The applicant is Gail Johnson of the Westford Public Health Nurse. The dates are October 1st through 31st, 2025. The time is after dark. Another event, which is the DEI Indigenous Peoples Day. The applicant is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. Wendy Gloyd on behalf of that committee. The date is Saturday, October 19th, 2025. The time is 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We also have a request for the Cub Mobile Racing. The applicant is Erica Chilson, Cub Master for PAC 100. The date is Sunday, October 19th, 2025. The time is 10:30 to 4 p.m. Location is 5 Fisher Way to Abbott School parking lot. And those are the items on the consent agenda tonight. I will entertain a motion to approve. Or you have a question?
Brief question, Tom, on item B, the DEI Indigenous Peoples Day.
Yep.
So it says Saturday, October 19th. That's a Sunday.
I believe it should be the 18th.
Should it be the 18th?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for the correction. So as amended. Any other questions? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve, and because we have a remote member tonight, we'll be doing all votes by roll call. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Second, okay. All in favor? Noel?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm also an aye.
We do have one resident who has posted something for open forum. If you don't
Oh, okay. I don't mind at all. Yeah,
Okay,
let's-
so Diane Wood writes, I just wanted to remind everyone that the Roden Bush Community Center is celebrating 5 decades of community engagement with its 50th anniversary gala on Saturday, September 20th from 6 to 9 p.m. at 65 Main Street. There'll be hors d'oeuvres, a cash bar, and dancing to mark this milestone. Tickets are on sale now at the website rodenbush.org.
I got one of the invites in my mailbox. Looks like an amazing event.
Yeah, it does. And since we snuck that in, I do
Yeah.
have an open
Yeah,
forum
yeah.
thought.
Feel
I'm
free.
sorry. It was the Westford Zero Waste Day, which is this Saturday, September 13th, from 9 to 1 p.m. And it's at 2 locations. I think it's at our DPW, 28 North Street, and then also at the Abbott School. I went to it last year. It was great to be able to get rid of a ton of stuff really easily. Thanks to all the volunteers that run that. Looking forward to a good session this year.
Yeah, I went last year. We'll pack up the minivan too.
Yeah.
So, see you there. Okay, we're a little bit early. There's no reason we couldn't call the joint meeting with Westford Housing Authority 5 minutes early, is there?
Are you all set to do that? Okay.
Okay,
Um,
make sure Diane.
Yes, Mike, would you promote Diane Holmes, please?
great. So we will invite our colleagues from the Westford Housing Authority to call themselves into session.
Is Diane on?
It'll take a second, but yeah, she's on her way in.
Can she speak?
Yes.
Okay. She asked me to call her on the phone. We called,
Great. While Diane's coming up, the purpose of the joint meeting is to appoint Scott Hazelton as a full member for a term to expire May 5th, 2026.
I'm Nancy Cook, Chair of the Westford Housing Authority, and I'd like to call the meeting to order, joint meeting to order at 7:05. Pat, we have to do roll call.
What do you want me to say?
She's new at this. Nancy Cook.
Barbara Ackerman.
Diane?
I'm
Diane.
also here, Nancy.
Thank you, Diane.
Great, so welcome, and welcome Nancy, and we look forward to hearing a little bit about your decision to recommend appointing Scott.
Thank you. Carol Engel has retired after a lifetime of being on the Housing Authority, and we've lost a lot of knowledge. We're blessed for the fact that a lot of times Scott was on that board and can come back, and as you know, we've had a rough year or so we're getting back on track, and we could really use, we voted him in as treasurer last week. He didn't know it, he wasn't on the board yet. We were anticipating he'd be able to pick right up where he left off, so we really appreciate you considering appointing him until May.
And just under our charter and state law, because this is an elected position and there's a vacancy, this is similar to what we did with the Board of Health a few months ago. It's a joint appointment between these two boards. until the election on May 5th.
Great, and I think there was a call out for other candidates. Did you have some other candidates, Nancy?
No, we did not. There were
Okay.
no other
They're-
applicants.
They're scared away by Scott.
Or
Scott's
Patty,
incredible
I'm not
experience.
sure.
Okay, well, Kristen, I'll take your advice. So in this case, I'm not sure if the Housing Authority has already voted, and so we're voting, or whether now
It's
they're
a
going to
joint
vote
vote
and we'll vote.
together.
It's a collective joint vote.
It's a
So you actually,
I'd be happy to call the vote. if
You
you'd
actually
like.
call the
Sure,
vote in this case, I
sure.
think.
Okay. So is there a nomination for Scott Hazelton to be appointed to the Housing Authority for a term to expire on May 5th, 2026?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, so I'll call the roll of the Housing Authority. Patty?
Yes.
Nancy?
Aye.
Barbara?
Diane?
Diane?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. I'll call the roll of the Select Board. Tom?
aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
All right, so that is all in favor. Congratulations, Scott. We'll get your appointment letter processed and get you sworn.
Thank you very much.
Would you like to say, would a candidate like to speak at all? The newly appointed
Treasurer, no less.
the treasurer.
He's already
in office.
Just to say two things. So first, when I joined the Housing Authority many moons ago, Carol was the, I think, senior member then. She's about this tall, but when it comes to elderly housing, she's a giant. So it's really an honor to fill that term. Secondly, when I was on the first time as the only guy, I think there's something in the charter that says one male only, so I will fill that role again. But I think they meet Thursday, Kristen, so I need to get appointed a letter before then. So, okay, thanks.
Great, okay. Great, thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
So do we adjourn? Yeah.
Yes,
Make a motion to adjourn the Housing Authority?
I'll make the motion. Second?
Second. All in favor? Patty?
Aye.
Diane?
Aye.
Barbara?
Aye.
Scott? And I also vote aye. We're adjourned.
Great, thank you to our colleagues on
Thank
the
you.
Housing Authority. Next item up is the street acceptance. Do we have Attorney Robbins? We're running a little bit early.
so Attorney Robbins is tied up in another municipality
Okay.
this evening. Walter Erickson is on the line, but really this is still a formality. You
Okay.
did approve to close the public hearing last month. The planning board has reviewed this. Everything appears to be in order. So it's really just to recommend that this be placed on the draft warrant, which it is on there. So if you'd like to approve that and vote to place it on the warrant, we can do that and then move through the process for town
Okay.
meeting.
Any questions from the board about this before we move to put this on the warrant? Anything from the public? Okay, I'll accept a motion to put the street acceptance and layout of D Donato Drive on the upcoming special town meeting warrant.
So moved.
All those in favor? Noel?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. Do we need to close the public session?
There's no public hearing right now, so there's no need to close anything.
Excellent. We are now up for our 7:20 item, which is a strategic plan update. For members of the public, we've been going through our strategic plan and focusing on different sections of that plan in various meetings, getting updates on all the excellent activities going on in town. We also are asking the committees that support those areas of the strategic plan to come join us, and look forward to welcoming the Recycling Committee and the Clean Energy Committee, thank you, at a time in the future. So, I think, Mike, you're going to be taking through this.
I'm going to be taking this
Okay.
one. I appreciate the opportunity to tell you about what we've been up to. We did give this update to the Clean Energy Committee, I guess it was last week. They got the long version, you guys will get the short version, but we did give you guys in advance the workbook printout, which has essentially all the updates on all the action items. What I'm going to talk about are really just the highlights to keep it short, but as always, interrupt, ask any questions that you have. We've been keeping you pretty up to date on all this as we've gone along, so hopefully nothing is a shock or a surprise, but we've been making a lot of progress, and I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit about it. Just for the benefit of the new members and anybody in the audience, we'll give a brief overview of the strategic plan, and in particular this outcome area, and then I'll walk through really just a highlight of each of the key strategies, and then we'll highlight the action items that we've had recent progress on or really wanted to share with you. And then we'll give you a little bit of an update about what's coming up, and then questions at the end for anybody in the audience. And of course, you guys feel free to interrupt as we go. So, Tom, I think you and John would remember when we went through this with the committee, but we've got the key action, or the key outcome areas, the 7 different ones. One of them is the commitment to environmental sustainability and climate action. We'll be updating on each of these independently. Hopefully, we'll put out an update once a quarter, but the goal is to end up selecting one, every other meeting, every meeting, giving you guys an update so you know exactly what's going on. This one in particular, I think we probably did really a model job in how we developed the strategies, because we did sit with John, you and Tom, and members of the Clean Energy Committee, as well as members of staff, to identify what we felt were the priority strategies. And this is really the guidance with which we picked those strategies. And I think really the key piece on this to keep in mind, I won't read through everything, is that we picked things that were realistic and that were actionable for the 2 or 3 year period that we have to work with. And one of our key pieces was they had to be things that were in the town's control, so things that staff could work towards. The other big piece, and I think this is going to be important on the front end, is we selected things that we knew would result in financial savings. Budget was really priority for us, with the idea that we would free up money to further invest in some of the other things that maybe necessarily wouldn't be huge savings for us, but were still goals of the climate roadmap. So those were what guided our immediate strategies and the things we're working on now. So the 4 key pieces that we are hoping to accomplish over the next couple of years is create that solar siting plan, conduct the portfolio-wide building energy audit. This is the Amoresco project that's been in the works for a few years. But really the key piece of this is getting a prioritized action plan of everything we can do. Now, I'll be the first to say we're probably not as far along in this as I would want to be, because we've been so busy doing the projects. And I'll talk a little bit more about that when we move on. Another big piece is develop that fleet transition plan. And a key chunk of that is going to be the EV infrastructure. We'll talk about that specifically when we get to that. And last but not least, a comprehensive waste reduction strategy. So we wanted to make sure that we had the Westford Recycling Commission involved in this. And one of the key pieces we wanted to have for that was really getting a plan. And I'll talk about that in detail, but not only at this meeting, but at the next meeting we'll give you an update on our pay-as-you-throw progress, as well as the plan where it stands right now. So strategy 1, solar siting plan. We haven't had a huge amount of effort put into the draft siting plan at this point, primarily because the staff capacity is limited. What we have been able to do is make some progress on action item 4, which is making progress towards completing the Blanchard projects. As you know, last year, Jeff Goodwin, our facilities group, finished the roofing project, which did make that roof solar ready. So we are working right now with Amoresco on kind of rebooting the IGA and the performance contract, with that as one of our central projects. So we're actually, over the next week or so, we expect to be getting some preliminary pricing on all of the projects that we have remaining, and that one will probably be a little bit longer term, simply because of the scope of the work, and it's also going to have most likely some very front-end contractual pieces, simply to take advantage of tax credits that are going to be expiring with the changes at the federal level. So,
And Mike, just for those watching, the actions 2, 3, 4 have very detailed items that we have been working on. We just didn't want to clutter the slides and clutter people today. So again, we have a strategic planning website. That dashboard is up on that website right now. It accompanies the economic development dashboard. So we're being very strategic and specific in what we're presenting this evening, but there's also a lot of other work going on in the background that's documented in that spreadsheet.
yeah, and that's in your packet as well, that Excel printout. It's got essentially everything we've done since Q3 of FY25. Any questions on the first strategy.
I guess, Mike, I've got one. So if we look at the Amoresco project and really any, I guess, capital-intensive project that might have a multi-year payback, what's the soonest one of those might be sort of framed up and come before the town? Because it would need to come before town meeting.
Yes, there's, and we'll speak when we get into the warrant conversation a little bit later today. There is a piece of this Blanchard one that most likely will be on the fall warrant. What we are working on right now is, and I'll speak in greater detail on the overall Amoresco project, is a series of, I think, 4 projects that we've identified as kind of the key priorities. If everything goes the way we hope, we want to send something before town meeting in the spring that picks up all of those projects. Kind of generally on the facility stuff, in that original project we got, project selection sheet we had with Amoresco when we were working around the first go-round, we've completed probably a third of that already. So effectively, we kind of became our own performance contractor and did that work. So when I get to that item, I'll talk a little bit more about how those projects help this next round. But we've had some very productive conversations with Amoresco, and this solar one looks like it's one that we should be able to move forward with if everything works out.
Good. Thanks, Mike.
So our second strategy this has probably been the vast majority of our time and certainly our successes, and that's completing the town and school energy efficiency projects. Most of these came out of the original IGA report. They were projects that were identified. That's how we prioritized them. Within this bucket of strategy, we've got 4 different action items. One is to complete that IGA. 2 is to develop a prioritized plan. That is going to be something that comes out of the completed IGA, as well as we wrap up the facilities needs assessment and get our capital improvement plan in place for the next 5 to 10 years. The third piece is the development of a funding strategy, and you've seen that in action. I mean, we have been chasing incentives, especially promotional and short-term incentives. We've been going after grants. And the other big piece of that is we've been trying to leverage our net metering credits, as well as using on-bill repayment, 0%, typically 4 to 5 year repayment on projects. It's been extremely successful. I'll show you a slide in just a second that shows you kind of where we are bottom line. The other big piece of that was the approval by town meeting in the spring of a dedicated account that we can dump incentives and any leftover funding from energy efficiency projects and use that to continue to fund more projects. So the big one that we've been working on has really been just fast tracking our energy efficiency projects on our facilities. So you saw on the last, I believe it was the last agenda, we had a series of transformer projects that were funded in part by Green Communities. Right now we've got 2, well, that one we're still waiting to get the contract signed. We're waiting on DOER to give us our effective date, but we're ready to pull the trigger on that one. We've got our lighting projects underway. Everything else that's on here is either complete or pending. Jeff Goodwin told me that they've got largely completed both of the lighting projects that we had on the 2 fields. The next slide, I'll show you some really good summary numbers, but this is, we have made an enormous amount of progress on this. I think I'd be disingenuous to say otherwise. We've done a very good job on this in particular, and that's been largely a lot of help from Dan O'Donnell and from Jeff Goodwin. But I think we've made more progress than we anticipated, but it's taken our time from other things. So one that we're working on that's not on this list that just recently came up is actually potentially the electrification of the Blanchard wastewater treatment plant as well. So you may see something come up in the next week or so on that, and we'll update you when we have more information. Here is a summary, and I apologize it's so small. The 2 in the blue are the ones that we have active right now. So since we started this, we're up to about $3.2 million worth of investment in our facilities, and that is roughly a third of all those projects that were identified in the original Amoresco report. What's most interesting is really looking at our out-of-pocket upfront costs, which are, under $200,000 at this point. The vast majority of the funding has been provided by incentives and rebates, and that really is our strategy of trying to go after the ones that are either expiring or are short-term, promotional, and really, really rich. We've also started using the on-bill financing. We've just seen the first few of those start to hit our power bills, and they're basically doing exactly what we expected them to do. We're even Steven on them. Net metering credits is something new that we've been using. We were beginning to build those up, but we pushed a big chunk of it into the lighting projects. As we start seeing the energy savings, that funding source should grow and continue to be available for us for the duration of those contracts. And then we've had a little piece of grant money in there as well. With this last round, we're up to close to $250,000. Any questions on the financing side? So here's just a view of the same projects in terms of the savings. So we're not banking on the maintenance savings, so we're not factoring that into any of our real savings right now because, quite frankly, we're under resourced on maintenance anyway, and we understand that we are going to continue to have growing maintenance needs in our building. So we discount that maintenance savings when we look at the payback on a project. Very significant in terms of kilowatt hour savings, coming close to 1.3 million, and just over 1,000 tons of carbon have been saved off of these. Any questions on the savings? All right, let's be answering everything you guys had in your mind.
Actually, I do have a question. So on the net metering, tell me exactly how that works. Like when I think of net metering, I think of somebody having solar panels on their roof and feeding, excess energy back into the grid, but how does that work for the town?
Ours is different. Basically what we had is we purchased the production of 3 solar farms in the area. So we own the production, or a portion of the production that comes off of those. Essentially, it's much more complex than I'm going to make it sound. Dan had to school me for quite a while to get me to fully understand it. We spent a lot of time looking at it. Essentially, we are contracted to receive the kilowatt production of these facilities, which actually we pay Nexamp, the company that runs these things, for a price per kilowatt hour of the production. We buy it, they essentially send it to National Grid, and then we get the credit for those kilowatt hours in dollar terms on our bills with National Grid. The way that it works out, we pay about 11.6 cents per kilowatt hour, I think, in this current contract year. Our charge from National Grid under our municipal energy contracts about 12.8 cents. So yes, it's a higher amount, but we have done so much in terms of energy saving projects that we're actually oversubscribed to the kilowatt hours. We purchase more than we need. So by the time all this washes out, we wind up with an excess sitting in our balance. We haven't paid a power bill to National Grid in years. We have credit balances sitting in a lot of accounts. So what we're trying to do right now is rebalance those so that we can shift the credit balances to the buildings that we know are going to require investment, so that we can then use that money as a one-time on-bill repayment. So they'll bill us like a month for a couple $100,000 on Westford Academy, for example, and that'll wipe out a bunch of that. It'll wipe out some of the project costs for us. The rest of it we pick up over this repayment term of 4 years. It's pretty complex and there's a lot of back and forth, and but so far it's working, and we think it's a really good strategy, and we're able to do all this without appropriation. So that's been huge.
And so you guys forecast that type of revenue will be there for
The contract, 10 years.
10 years, okay.
We have 10 years remaining. This was something that John Mangiarotti put together and did a masterful job of doing it. At the time, the expectation was that we were going to cover about 85% of our total consumption. We're actually at about 110. So we've got excess capacity. There's really no other way to extract that money other than using the programs that the legislature allows under Chapter 25A to allow us to pay the project expediters to do the work. So we're kind of captive with what we can do with that money. We can really only use it, as near as I can tell so far, through this on-bill repayment. So it's our money, it's sitting there, but the only way we can use it is to reinvest it. There has been some talk about allowing us to cash that out. Other towns have approached that, but I mean, at this point, it's a great way for us to use these particular procurement methods to invest in energy projects, and it's money that's just sitting there for that purpose, so.
Okay, great. Thank you for that.
It's working out great so far.
Yeah, seems like it.
So Mike, you've had a great strategy, the town's had a great strategy in picking off the short-term payback items out of the IGA. That was a great idea, and it's been well executed. Do you feel like we're largely exhausted? Have we tackled most of the short payback things that make sense for us to do?
Yes and no. We've hit a lot of the low-hanging fruit. Basically, the way, if I kind of walk you through the way the performance contract works for anybody who's curious, essentially you package up a huge amount of projects, some that save a lot of energy, some that save a little bit of energy, and the ones that save a lot end up financing the ones that don't. One of the things that we went into with eyes wide open is that if we were going to pluck out all this low-hanging fruit, it would impact our ability to do larger scale performance contracts. But as with anything, there are creative ways to get around this, and you can do things called, you can stipulate the savings in a contract, for example. So when we do propose something on Amoresco to do a performance contract, we're actually going to give them credit for making those savings possible without actually having to pay them to do the work, and use that in terms of the way they have to structure their performance guarantees. So it's fairly complex the way it'll work, but it essentially, we get to take advantage of savings that we didn't have to pay them their overhead to take advantage of. So it should work out. If all the numbers line up, it should work out fairly well, that if we do structure a large performance contract, we'll be able to not only take credit for the savings we already received, but in 4 years, when all of these repayments drop off, we'll have a huge cash flow surplus that we can then structure our debt so it's a little bit backloaded, and we can pick up that. So we're going to keep Dan busy figuring this out, our new treasurer. But it should be a strategy that works for us. It basically is letting us get a lot of this work done without paying, one, the overhead to a performance contractor, but two, borrowing costs. I mean, we're saving the interest on $3.2 million that we would have had under a performance contract. So it's pretty exciting. So kind of moving on, any questions on the facility stuff? So moving on, our third strategy is our fleet transition plan. And this, again, is one we haven't had a huge amount of movement on, simply because of staff time limitations and the focus on facilities. But we really tried to focus on the fundamental things that we needed to get done. We needed to get our vehicle inventory in much better shape, so we knew what we had, we knew how we were using them. That kind of spun off into surplus sales and downsizing and right-sizing the fleet and a number of other things. But that process is largely complete, trying to get a good inventory of everything. The other big piece is working with CASC and the departments to look at something that CASC had proposed a few years back, and that is a zero-emission vehicle first policy. We've asked them to draft a policy and present it to us for review and see how it impacts our operations. From my perspective, cost savings and operations are always going to be the priority. So we'll have to see how that works and whether we can do something that works within the guidance of the Healy administration and DOER to see if we can find something that works, because that item right there is actually that's one of the major components of the Climate Leaders program that we would have to do. But again, our operations are going to come first. So that's, we're interested to see what CASC comes up with on that one. The one that we have made some progress on, and really it's progress by taking steps backwards, we're really looking at our EV charging infrastructure right now. As I mentioned several meetings back, we decommissioned a number of the ones that we had out there because they were faulty and out of warranty, and the manufacturer no longer existed. Plus they weren't being used. So that kind of begged the question of where are we putting these things, what are we doing with them, and are we really right-sized as far as where these are deployed? And so we took 8 offline that we felt weren't. The other thing that we've done is looking at the library project. We had EV chargers in there. There was no standard around what those chargers were going to be. They were just simply chargers. So during the submittal review process, we asked the question, well, why did we pick these? What are we doing with these particular chargers? Ultimately made the decision to push pause on that and actually step back and say, what is going to be our town standard? Are we going to have a standard charger? Where are we going to deploy them? We need to be able to work on these things. We need to be able to service them and monitor them. We can't have hodgepodges of chargers all over the place. What has worked out very well in terms of the timing of this is the states actually changed their guidance around procurement of this. So we can now procure relatively streamlined for both chargers and the maintenance and the monitoring of those chargers, because the one thing we don't have is the staff to take care of them. We had these units go out there, we have nobody that can work on them, and you can't find people that can work on them. So really at the core of it is us getting to a point that we have a town standard. We get one charger, that's what goes everywhere. We understand how to work on it. We have spare parts for it. We select something that has a good track record and that we know that we can take care of for a long period of time. So this will be one that's ongoing over the next couple of months. CASC and in particular Tom Teller are going to be a huge help with this and help us navigate what do we need to do. That will eventually also become a larger EVSE plan for the town, so we understand what we have both in our public locations and behind the fence to charge our fleet. But we're taking a very measured approach to this. So we can get to the next slide. Yeah, it doesn't
We have to
look
stop
like the share is
sharing.
working. There we go.
There we go.
Okay. See how many I jumped up. Okay, well, I'm assuming this is where I was.
There's one slide ahead. I think that, what slide,
Yeah, no, there's
12.
Apologies. The Zoom is not advancing.
There we go.
Okay, here we go. All right, so the last strategy is our comprehensive waste reduction efforts. And really a lot of this is foundational. So if we look at action item 1 and 2, these are really about us getting our processes in line. So how are we going to collect information, share information, both internally and with the WRC, because they've been a huge help in actually monitoring our contracts. And then really getting very good at that contract management. And that's, again, where WRC has been a huge help. The ongoing effort we've had with them and with assistance from NIMCOG has been really working on a plan. We kind of stepped back from pay-as-you-throw so that we knew how pay-as-you-throw would serve as a foundation for a larger plan. On the 23rd, I'll give a much more detailed look into where we are with pay-as-you-throw and what we're going to be recommending, as well as the overall plan. But the kind of the general theme is, if we do pay-as-you-throw, we have to simultaneously be able to do a number of other diversion activities and other services to make pay-as-you-throw much more agreeable for our residents to adapt to. It is going to be a change, and we feel it's only going to be successful if we have a number of other things that kind of roll out parallel that allow people to push things out of the waste stream and into the recycling and reuse stream. So again, I'll talk a lot more about that on the 23rd. And our fourth item, yes, is action item 4 is that pay-as-you-throw. We are planning to make a recommendation. We have had a few changes to what we originally recommended, mostly because some new opportunities have come up that may give us a different way to look at it. It's, as with everything, it seems to all be kind of at the last minute when we get this wonderful new opportunity, but it's one I'm excited to share with you guys. I won't spend a huge amount of time on it right now, but I think you'll like that we have another option to consider that would be relatively innovative for the state. And we've been working very closely with Mass DEP and with a couple of vendors to try to put something together that I think you guys will really get a kick out of. I did want to share kind of where we are with our trash and recycling efforts right now. So been kind of telling you as we've adapted to the new hauler, how we've seen so much of a change in our trash tonnage, and that has continued. We're sitting just over 14% down from where we were in the past. I've got on the bottom right there, you can see that the comparisons that we're using right now to kind of measure ourselves are using the Mass DEP standards. They're all based on calendar year, but this really takes a look at what our tons per household are. And since tipping fees are such a big piece of our costs associated with that, they're really the only variable component we have. That is our target, to try to get that number down so we can reduce costs and either eliminate waste or shift it into reuse and recycle streams where it either costs us less or costs us nothing. So right now, on the last reporting cycle on a calendar year for 24, Westford came in at about 0.78 tons per household. So you'll remember from the Budget Task Force report, they had us at about 0.95 tons per household. Some of this is math. We did some corrections around the number of households, but we've had a significant decrease in our tonnage. We're almost 1,000 tons less than we were last year with the different hauler. Some of that may be the result of the changes to the bulk policy, the bulk item collection. We took that out of our, both out of our revenue stream, but also out of our cost stream. But generally speaking, we are well under where we expected to be with our trash collection. Right now, through the fiscal year, the only time I have a full year of data with the new collector, we're under the average for the state, and we're under the average for all of our market basket communities that do curbside collection. So the good news is we're doing very well, and the even better news is we're not as bad as we thought. We're pretty good in Westford on this, and I think the residents should be happy with this. Where we want to target is the very low end of that market basket curbside rate, which sits around 0.62, 0.63 tons per household. So we think we can get there. It's going to take us a little bit of time, but that pay-as-you-throw program is going to be a big piece of that foundation.
Hey, Mike, real briefly. Tom, is that okay?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you. Mike, so obviously the tonnage has gone down, what did you say, approximately 1,000 tons or so?
964.46 tons.
Okay, has anyone figured out what that equates to in a cost saving? I know you alluded to that, but you didn't suggest a number.
We paid $99.77 per ton before, so that's about $100,000 in savings.
In some past analysis, Mike, we'd also looked at market baskets of pay-as-you-throw communities.
Yes.
Is that the ones that are down at this 0.62 number
Yes,
that you referenced?
in our market basket, we've only got a handful that had pay-as-you-throw when the calendar year 2024 was out. That would be Concord and Shrewsbury. Shrewsbury is the lowest, sitting at about 0.62, and Concord's like 0.64. We'll have new data in February, but I did I wanted to see where we are under the new contract, so that's why I looked at it in fiscal year for that first number there. You'll notice our recycling is also down. I think a metric we haven't looked at in the past that we are looking at now is really that recycling as a percentage of total, because that's kind of the one that matters. I'm not concerned that our recycling is down as long as the proportion of what we're recycling to what we're throwing away goes up, and it did. A big piece of that for that particular year is simply the drop in trash tonnage. So, our numerator changed a little bit. But we'll continue to monitor that. We are going to try to work to incorporate some of the metrics from the various diversion activities, most of which are led by the Recycling Commission. But we're working with them right now to try to pull all that data together so we have an idea of what's moving into these other streams as well.
I guess sort of an awkward question, but if we thought that a behavior change in Westford accounted for the 1,000-ton drop, that would be pretty interesting. It'd be pretty interesting to understand. I think I think it's a little bit more ambiguous than that, right, about exactly what accounts for the difference. So when we're thinking about pay-as-you-throw and other ways to get to best practice, I guess when we're focusing on the behavior change, we're looking at stuff like pay-as-you-throw. That's a behavior changer. You could look at communities with more consistent data than I think we have before and after and see that there was a real change in what happened.
Oh, no question. I mean, when you
Okay.
monetize, you change behavior. And that's really the only thing that makes a difference in every system that's been tried everywhere across the country. Until you monetize and make people think about what they're putting in the trash to save money, you just don't see anything change.
So I think it might be helpful in the public discussion, given that we have this sort of ambiguous change, and you may already have this, Mike, but to have sort of the change other communities went through over a 2-year period once they adopted. Because I think that's something that we can look at and say, okay, that we're making an investment in that by moving to pay-as-you-throw.
We have oodles of data on that.
Okay,
So
great.
we'll be pushing all that out as well. And it's, and I'm looking forward to the discussion on the 23rd, because I think you really will see, we've got a couple of different options. We really want to take some more public input to see what's going to be the most palatable, because I think to me, the key takeaway of really going back and looking at the base data was, it's not dire. We're not in an emergency situation. We're not sitting at 0.95 tons, so we can take a more measured and pragmatic approach that will be sustainable in the long run, rather than just immediately pumping the brakes and causing some of the unintended consequences we're getting now. I mean, just the bulk waste change. We've had a significant increase in illegal dumping. We're looking at, all right, what's getting dumped? How is it getting dumped? How are we going to address those things? Because I don't want to see a pay-as-you-throw benefit end up getting squandered on a bunch of unintended consequences that just cost us money and leave stuff all over the place. So it's a much, much more complex question than just charging money per bag. So everything we push elsewhere costs us money. So just a quick look at the KPIs. These all came out of the strategic plan. We're modifying a few of them that could make a little bit better sense. But again, this is all kind of draft at this point. We're still figuring out what we want those targets to look like, and also getting our FY25 figures in here. But all things considered, we're doing fairly well. I would expect some of these metrics are going to go up next year in an unfortunate way. The energy use, for example, we need to find some better ways to measure things like that, because it's not going to account for the fact we had an incredibly cold and long winter. That's not going to be a good metric to report on next year. So I've got to think through this a little bit more, so we can put these things in context of other things that are going on, and not just look at a single number that happens to be red or green. So coming up, we're in the process of wrapping up the space needs analysis. That'll give us our CIP and our building projects that we've got. Most of what we will have is probably going to be deferred maintenance at this point, so I wouldn't expect a huge amount of shockers on there, other than some of the bottom lines on some of the improvements we really need to make just to keep our facilities in shape. We will be giving the update on the 23rd on the pay-as-you-throw recommendations. Later this month, we'll also be pushing out public notices on the new contract for Westford Pop. You'll recall the rates went down just a little bit, so we're excited to get that information out for people. We're coming up on our next round of Green Communities reporting. This will give us our facility baseline data for what we're going to be using in these metrics. We're going to really rely on this Mass Energy Insights report, because it is standardized across all towns that are part of Green Communities. And then we've got a few collaborations kind of ongoing with CASC. One is with Tom Teller and their group on EV charging infrastructure. And then we'll be pulling them back into the Amoresco IGA work as we get that fleshed out the rest of the way. So those are some of the things that we've got coming up. Questions?
Related to the Amoresco IGA stuff, so it sounds like if we were going to have something potentially to look at in Springtown meeting, sometime late fall, we'll be sort of pulling that together into kind of a master plan.
Yep.
Okay, great. Questions from the board?
I can't have done that good of a job.
Well, you've been working hard on this for a long time, so
Yes.
a lot of this has come together in a good way. Yeah, my questions are sort of around primarily around the pay-as-you-throw and ultimately seeing what we see in the IGA, kind of longer payback stuff, because I think that'll give Westford a good sense of what our 5-year plan is.
Yeah.
I think we've done a great job of harvesting low-hanging fruit, and I think that's to the town's credit, but the kind of bigger question of longer payback items.
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a preview. A lot of the IGA stuff, other than the solar, it's not going to, there's some things we have to do in terms of rooftop unit replacements at Westford Academy roof and making that solar ready. We have to do those things. They're failing.
Yeah.
We've got garden hoses running up to Westford Academy roof right now, cooling down condensers. So we are really trying to use the performance contract and this Chapter 25A, Section 11 procurement tool as a way to get those things done. But they're also not they're not super sexy projects in some cases. The solar will be great. BMS, building management systems, that's huge for us. We may not see a huge amount of energy savings off of it, but the maintenance savings that we'll get will be absolutely through the roof. So.
Mike, you say not sexy, speak for yourself, man. Rooftop units?
Yeah, that's good
Okay.
stuff.
Other questions for, yep?
So while you're on the topic of the roof at WA, I'm curious, has there been an analysis that says, that looks at the extra costs associated with, making a roof solar ready versus just siting the solar on just, ground or putting up a solar canopy across a parking lot that we see at like a lot of other high schools have done, for example?
That'll be something that we look at. I don't have the information on that right now, but certainly on Blanchard, it made more sense to go on the roof, but it did come with a premium.
Right.
It is something that if you are doing it in conjunction with a roof that needs to be done anyway, that's the time to do it. But looking at parking lots, looking at canopies, other things that are site adjacent, make a lot of sense. One thing you will see with any projects that we do in the future, if you do see anything come before town meeting, for example, we try to give ourselves a lot of flexibility in, are you going to do it on the ground? Are you going to do it on the building? Are we going to try to do it slightly off-site? So we won't know those things until you actually get into the engineering in a lot of cases. But yes, we'll
Mike,
definitely look at
you
it.
might be able to pull out from Blanchard, like you say, because I think at one point we actually had an articulated difference in cost.
We do
I
on
don't
that
remember the
one.
number, but maybe in a future meeting or some other time, we could just say we think it costs $200,000 to equip for that purpose, or whatever the number is. Might be interesting.
I'll tell you what.
Part of the analysis, I would just be, if it's an extra $1 million to make to put a solar installation on a roof versus $800,000 to put it in the parking lot next door, that's important information I think we probably should be looking at.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Yep, John?
Well, I think you're aware of my concern about the safety fleet, as far as an operational plan that allows us to, move into that in a logical way. Buying into the electrical vehicle, first argument, and somebody else has approval of how we buy for cars and stuff. I think just having an operational plan, how do we work into that? What are the facility requirements, safety requirements, security requirements of transferring into an electrical fleet?
That's
That's a
100%
concern.
on my mind with all of this. And I will say, with respect to the public safety vehicles, they've actually exempted those from the requirement for the vehicle first policy. So that's good news. What I shared with the CASC that I left off of this, but is in our updates, is the success that police has had with the hybrid cruisers. That's been absolutely astounding, looking at the fuel reduction that we've had, close to a third on a rolling 3-year cycle. So we'll have that kind of information that we'll be putting out. Operationally, certain things we just need to run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and those are one. We're not going to do anything that impacts operations. That always is going to come first, from my perspective. So I'll be keeping an eye on that.
Sean?
Yeah, Mike, briefly, how many charging stations did we have at one point in the town?
Public, 24.
24, all right. So we got rid of a third of those, right?
Yes.
And when were those generally installed?
They were installed in 2022. No, because we took them offline right after they were 3 years and a day when I took them offline, because we had to keep them in service for 3 years.
So, I mean, that's what I was gonna get. I mean, it's kind of disappointing, right? Like, I would imagine those cost a pretty penny.
They were grant funded.
100% grant funded.
All right.
But there wasn't really a plan, it just went up.
But still, I think disappointing.
Yeah,
it's
just,
Clearly, it
No
didn't
question.
work, our strategy, so.
Yeah.
right.
I think what it did, though, fortunately, we didn't have a huge cost associated with them. I mean, we paid the licensing fees.
Pocket, right.
The out-of-pocket, we had nothing, but the licensing fees weren't generating, we weren't generating enough revenue off of them to even pay the
The
licensing fees.
rates weren't high enough to pay the licensing
Yeah,
fees.
and,
So our rate structure was broken as
Yeah.
well.
so I fixed the rate structure, but we didn't have the usage. I mean, we had 8 ports here, and at most, we would have, the most we ever had plugged in at one time was 2. And one of them was ours. So that, I think the thing that we realized is we've really got to think about where we're putting them. And that's, I don't want to just run out and get grants and throw them up everywhere. I want to know where are people going to use them.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that we're really pulling Tom Teller and CASC into this is I don't want to waste money on them again. They cost time and effort to take care of. And that particular company that made them has been out of business for about 1.5 years. So.
Okay, got it. Any other questions or comments? First from the board, from the public? Anybody
So just
online?
have one online.
Yep.
Mike Berlinski writes, CEASC appreciates the great work by staff and COG on sustainability. So, thank you.
Thanks,
Mike, we appreciate you and
Yeah.
the committee. Thank you for being here tonight. Okay, thank you, Mike, and that's a good deep dive, and I know we're going to follow up on a couple of those items in future meetings. So that takes us to the 7:35 item, which is to discuss the option to place the Alcoholic Beverage Control Commission beverage license option on the special town meeting warrant. For those of you that are joining us in progress, this is, people can correct me, but it's an opt-in thing created by legislation where the town can opt in essentially to have the ability to take the 5 current beer and wine only licenses, and through the process of making an application to us and paying a license fee, have the opportunity for the 3 existing facilities and then the 2 open, so 5 total, 3 existing businesses that could make this change, and then 2 others that aren't currently allocated. They could update to a full all alcohol beverage license. And the choice before us is whether we want to put this forward on the special town meeting, this upcoming town meeting warrant, as something for the town to consider. So, Kristen, anything else before we go to where the board is on this?
You heard from Town Clerk Lori Shaw at your last
Okay.
meeting. I have asked her in preparation, if you do choose to put this on the warrant, to have some very detailed information of what businesses would qualify specifically right now, what businesses currently have all alcohol licenses, and just give a little bit more detail. So she is in process of doing that if you do choose to put this on the warrant for fall.
Yeah, Chris?
Do we feel that we need to have that, maybe I'm going to call it surcharge that the select board would be able to levy for the transfer of these?
So I think you can make that decision after
Afterwards.
town meeting. It may come up as a town meeting discussion. Would we charge more? I think that it would be a good practice to up it because they are able to sell more
Sure.
product. So you may want to have that conversation between now and October 27th, but you don't have to make that actual decision on surcharge until town meeting approves.
And I think Lori gave us the difference between the cost of applying
I
for
think
2
it was
licenses.
$1,500 for malt, so that's beer and wine, and I believe $2,500 for all alcohol, so it's about $1,000.
So it sort of gives a reference number for us to think about.
So if we were
Sure.
asked, we could say.
We could say we haven't decided, but here's a reference number that might give us some guidance.
And it certainly applies to restaurants, right?
Correct.
It's only restaurants, there's only 5 that have this category of license, only 3 are currently operating, or currently holding
So we
license.
just talking about that 5.
Five, yes.
Right, so I agree with the point that the scope here is fairly small. I think we were talking about a big scope. I'd be interested in
Yeah.
public safety opinion, I'd be interested in, any kind of benchmark data we could get. I think this is a pretty narrow sort of category of range we're talking about. Actually, Lori gave us the total number of license holders in town.
So we have 25 total all alcohol
Okay,
and 5 beer and wine only. So it's,
so the max potential change
Is
here, if the 2 that are open were filled with operating restaurants and they all, through our process with us, we chose to upgrade them, allow them to be upgraded, to go from 25 to 30. So that's the range what we're talking about. Any other questions? So the question before us is, do we feel comfortable bringing this forward to town meeting? Any feelings on that?
Yeah, I think so,
Yeah,
yeah.
and I think of note is that this law was passed to try to generate more economic growth, right? Like, and we want that as a town, so might as well put it to the voter and, let the town weigh in.
Certainly be a good thing for these businesses.
Sure.
And Noel, I think I saw you nodding. Are you?
Yeah, I agree with what Sean just said.
You're in
I think
concurrence?
this is a
Okay.
good idea.
Why don't we see if there are any comments from the public or online before we would be voting to place this on the warrant tonight, or is this a discussion item?
it's really discussion item. I actually have it as a placeholder on the warrant, so you'd be
It's
voting
already
to
there,
place it on
okay.
the warrant for next meeting.
Okay.
I don't see any
No,
comments.
nothing from public. Okay. Great. So I think we're in concurrence, but the actual vote that we'll take will come when we actually vote on the warrant items, which is in a future meeting. So if you're interested in this item, you can tune in at that point and let your voice be heard. Next up is the preview for the special town meeting warrant, and as a special guest, we have Madame Moderator. If you, I hope you'll come join us here at the table.
Here I am.
Lucky us.
Well, I had the opportunity to go over the proposed warrant with Kristen today, and it looks fairly straightforward. As far as I'm concerned, the order of the articles are fine. We also talked a little bit about logistics. We'll still have childcare and free transportation and all the things we've had in the past. No food because it's an evening meeting. Kristen is going to do a survey again to try and get our hands around attendance. As of today, as far as I know, there's been nothing generating a lot of controversy. That doesn't mean it won't happen between now and town meeting, but just right now, that's where it is. So I think we can look forward to a smooth meeting.
So, if I may, I'd love to just give you a preview of what we
Please.
currently have on the warrant, which will hopefully help educate you and the public for when you do vote on the warrant next week. Currently, there are 11 articles on the document that I'm going to show you. One article came in today, which we have not previewed you. It came in after we spoke. Mike will discuss that briefly. So last special town meeting, we did not have any financial articles. This year, we do have several supplemental appropriations. Select board expenses, our NIMCOG appropriation came in higher than we had budgeted for. Town meeting expenses, the town meeting postcards and printing costs continue to rise. So that is a portion of this $18,000. I'm also considering if we continue with the Zen City platform. I've had some conversations with them over the past 2 weeks. If we continue with that, so I will have a full breakout for the select board, but that's what's included in the town manager expenses. We do have a placeholder for treasurer collector expenses. As you may be aware, we do have a new treasurer collector, and the other staff in the office all have 2 years or less experience, and we do feel that they need special schooling and training that has a cost associated with it, so we'll be asking for that supplemental appropriation. We will need legal service expenses appropriation of approximately $30,000 when we set the budget for fiscal '26, and we're looking forward. We didn't have the exact projection. We also are settling several contracts and have several litigation items that we do need to pay for. We have several unexpected technology expenses that Mike Wells will explain related to subscriptions that are coming due that are a requirement of the state that we have just found out about. It is not something that we are making up, but something the state is requiring, so we'll have some more information from you on that. We also received some information from the Department of Environmental Protection related to one of our wastewater treatment plants that needs additional study. We have a meeting with DEP next week about that, but it may require an engineering study in the amount of approximately $30,000. And then our new Veteran Service Officer, Colin Bodie, has done an amazing job going out to the community and helping veterans. As you're aware, with Chapter 115, we are responsible for a portion of that. We do get a 75% reimbursement, so we are seeing that we need to increase the veteran service expenses, but I believe that's for the benefit of many of our residents there. And then there is an ambulance enterprise retained earnings amount to supplement the operating budget that's coming from the ambulance enterprise budget. My screen is also being slow. We then have several capital appropriations. The Capital Planning Committee will be meeting on these on Friday morning at 8:30, so whoever's interested in more details, please attend that. I know, John, you'll be participating as a select board liaison. I've also appointed a new member at large and a community preservation committee member, as well as the permanent town building committee appointed a liaison. So we have a full capital planning committee to start on Friday morning. The technology department sees a need for additional firewall upgrades for town and schools, so Mike Walls will be explaining that. Something that has come out of the facilities assessment and is fairly new is 51 Main Street, as we're aware, was not stated for the tear down and replacements. That did not pass at town meeting. We are seeing that the siding is becoming dilapidated, the roof is becoming dilapidated. We are seeing that we potentially could be reusing this building for potentially animal control consolidation. Right now they have an office at Town Hall, they have kennel equipment in their vehicles, also at Beacon Street and other areas. And we think for the best purpose, if we were to ever do something related to Town Hall expansion, as we were talking about potentially Abbott or whatnot, that might be 5-10 years down the road based upon the Robinson School. So we would like to secure the 51 Main Street building, and we'll have better cost estimates for that on Friday. The Department of Public Works is looking at our sidewalk plowing plan, and what we've done in the past was a pilot program where we had a contractor who would go out and plow, I believe, 2.8 miles of sidewalk per year. That contractor has notified us that they're no longer interested in that, and we don't see any other contractors that would be interested. So we're looking at the potential to purchase a sidewalk tractor that not only would be used in the winter months to plow sidewalks, but would be used for other roadside mowing and other things. So it would be a multi-utility vehicle for $300,000. And the contractor that we have been using is willing to sell us their loader that they've been using for $40,000. So we may be looking at purchasing that as well as a backup piece of equipment. So Kyle Fox will be presenting that to Capital on Friday morning. The next item is really a switch of accounts. It's the ambulance enterprise retained earnings to purchase a new ambulance. This is replacing the funding source that we authorized for borrowing. We now have enough in our ambulance enterprise to pay it outright, so we do need town meeting authorization to change that funding source, but the amount is not changing. And then the next is a stormwater enterprise retained earning for $300,000. We received notice from Mass DOT that the Colonial Drive Bridge is failing and is in need of repair. That's a dead-end roadway with, I believe, 12 residential units on. So the engineering department is doing initial studies on how to repair that culvert and bridge. And to do that, they're looking to use $300,000 for the repair out of the stormwater enterprise. It's not prudent for us to close down the roadway and build a new bridge just for those 12 residential units. So we do feel that this is an emergency, and it would fall under our capital request for this fall of 2025. There are 3 other capital items, all requiring a 2/3 majority vote for borrowing. The first is a $2.1 million for the Nutting Road Fields. This may look and feel like deja vu, but this was before us at the Springtown meeting. There was a failure of vote by 12 votes at that point in time. I think there was a lot of misinformation in the community of what turf versus grass versus CPC funding. The Parks and Rec Commission and the DPW and other staff have done an excellent job in reevaluating that project, going out to review specific turf projects throughout the Commonwealth and selecting one specific turf vendor. We're currently going to be going out to bid for that dollar amount, so at the time of the town meeting, we will have that actual dollar amount to be voted upon.
Sorry, Kristen, but it's projected to be around 2.1?
Correct.
Okay,
And I believe that's very similar to the cost that was brought
It's the same.
okay,
for annual town meeting.
thank you.
Sure, and then the third and fourth motions have to do with fire trucks, and Chief Dennehy and Deputy Chief Svatek will be before you in the next few meetings to do a deeper dive into the fire fleet and the needs. The first is for $1 million to purchase and equip a new fire truck. This would be a fire truck that is currently on someone's lot that we would purchase. We're in dire need of a backup vehicle. We do not currently have a backup vehicle. Our engine 2 and engine 5, and please forgive me if I'm using engine or ladder incorrectly, will be particular on Friday. We've taken out of service because they're irreparable and very dangerous to operate, and we're in need of a backup piece of equipment right now. If we need it sporadically, we could borrow from other municipalities, but it's not good practice. And then we also are looking for an appropriation for $1.45 million to purchase and equip a new rescue pumper truck. This would be to put into the fleet. We don't anticipate receiving this vehicle for 4 years. That's how long it's taking now if you put something on order. Select board members and town meeting members may recall that at a previous town meeting not so long ago, we also authorized a ladder truck. We still have not received that, so we're not even paying for that yet. So Dan O'Donnell will have a very detailed debt sheet on our fire vehicle and equipment. But my understanding is that around the 2017, 2016 mark, when we were looking at the new fire station versus a new fire truck, it was chosen not to replace a fire truck in lieu of getting the station passed. So we are behind in our fleet replacement schedule, and the fire chief will be able to relay that better than I can. Is there any questions on capital or financial before I move forward?
Yep, Chris?
This may be for when the fire chief comes, but I would be curious to understand, when we're purchasing something for backup purposes, just how often that backup piece of equipment is
Goes out.
actually used.
Sure.
And you did say that, you have the capability to potentially borrow from other municipalities, but it's not recommended. I can kind of see why, but it would be interesting to sort of see if there was some way to come up with a regionalized approach to maintaining a fleet of backup vehicles for multiple, municipalities within a region to take advantage of, to share the cost. Just because these things are getting so expensive nowadays.
Right.
So I don't know, that might be part of what he's going to bring to us, but if not, I'd be interested in hearing his take on
I'll
that.
relay that message for
Thank
sure.
you.
All right, I will move on. The next 4, I won't go into great detail. You've heard from Jeff Morissette. We do have 4 zoning bylaw articles. The order may change a little bit on the warrant. The first is to create a tiered site plan review process, which would help us process permits quicker for businesses and other uses that come in. The second is changes to the MBTA McMod overlay district around Tech Park East. The owner of the property is looking to do a swap right now. They have a portion of their land that is in MBTA overlay, a portion is not, and they have a concept plan and a user in mind that it makes sense to do that swap. So the planning board is still holding their public hearings. If you're interested, I recommend that you tune in, and then they'll be before us with their recommendation before town meeting. The planning board is looking to modify their Appendix A table of uses to bring other uses into, if it's now not allowed, either by special permit or by right, again, to become more business friendly. And then the last item, it's incorrectly noted here, but it would be accessory dwelling units, so we can come in compliance with the state's requirement for accessory dwelling units. Article 7, as it's listed here, is to amend the personnel section of the general bylaw. Right now, the town charter allows for the town manager to create positions and classify them, and also to reclassify positions that are not in union environment. The personnel section of the general bylaw requires that town meeting approve the town manager's recommendations for those items. In reviewing other municipalities and also just best practices for business, this hampers our ability, or my ability and others' ability to create positions as we may have vacancies or we may want to reorganize in the departments. It would require me to go to town meeting for those changes, and that only happens twice a year, if at all. So we've reviewed this with the Personnel Advisory Committee. They actually voted this morning to recommend this 3-0. So we're looking forward to bringing that to town meeting to potentially have that change for more business-friendly related to retention and recruitment. Article 8 is to approve the general law, which you just discussed, related to restaurants holding wine and malt beverage licenses, to promote that to all alcohol beverage licenses with select board approval. Article 9 is to authorize our wastewater contracted services for up to 10 years. Right now, our services are contracted up to 3 years, as we've reviewed at the Budget Task Force meetings and the Tri-Board meetings, as well as best practices. Having a 10-year contract allows us to regulate the price and also have that vendor of choice be in line for a longer period of time. Any contract over 3 years does require town meeting approval. We saw that a few town meetings ago with the school bus contract that we wanted to put in place for a longer period of time. Earlier this evening, you recommended that D. Donato Drive acceptance as a public way be placed on the town meeting warrant. So that is there. And then finally, written here, I have there was one citizen's petition filed. This is for Main Street Convenience at 103 Main Street. They currently have beer and wine license for off-premise consumption, so selling of beer and wine. They're looking to upgrade that to all alcohol. So if that is approved by a town meeting, that would then go to the legislature for a special act and then come back to the select board for a licensing process. And then the last item that we may be requesting for the town meeting is related to Blanchard.
Yeah, no,
Area?
I think I did it again. So I think we have an opportunity to look at solar on Blanchard, but because of the timing and the expiration of the tax credits by the current administration, we essentially have a pretty significant timing consideration in terms of getting something under contract in order to save about 25% of the purchase price. What we're looking at, and really the only thing that appears to be feasible given the overall structure of how this would have to work, would be doing a power purchase agreement, doing a PPA, where essentially a commercial solar provider would lease our rooftop or our space and put the panels on there and then sell the power back to us. We would still come out ahead, but in order to do something, it would require them and us to have an agreement in place by the end of the calendar year. Now, this doesn't obligate us to do it. If the numbers don't work out, we absolutely wouldn't recommend it, but we did not want to miss the opportunity to have the town meeting grant the select board the ability to enter into that agreement, as opposed to town meeting having to come back and revisit it. So the warrant article would essentially be town meeting authorizing the select board to act on behalf of the town to enter into an agreement longer than 3 years.
Okay, good. Any questions about the preview items tonight on the warrant?
Just newbie question, when do we vote on these?
So-
Because right, the select board is now gonna go through each of these once the warrant is set, right? And decide whether or not to take a stance on it?
That's good, right? So we
Yeah.
close the warrant, and then as we approach the meeting itself, we take positions on the individual articles. We don't need to take positions on all of them on a specific day, but we have to take positions by the time the meeting takes place.
Right,
Okay.
so the town meeting postcard is mailed out a week and a half in advance of town meeting. So generally by your first meeting in October, you'd be voting your recommendations on the majority of the articles. Sometimes planning board lags behind, so you never make a recommendation. Generally, the select board does not make a recommendation on a zoning article until the planning board makes that recommendation.
Okay.
And sometimes circumstances change that the select board may make a recommendation on town meeting floor. But for the most part, you'll be making your recommendations at the first meeting in October.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any questions from public about the special town meeting warrant preview? Okay, I don't think we have anything else from you, Madam Moderator?
No,
Thank you for being here
nothing
tonight.
from me.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Great. Up next is old new business. First up is update on local election day study. And just thank you to Lori Shaw and you, Kristen, for investigating a lot of options here. So I don't know if you want to just give a quick recap
Sure.
on what you did and what you learned.
Yeah, absolutely. So just to recap for the select board and members of the public, at the annual town meeting, there was a citizens petition that sought to change the local election, which is currently the first Tuesday in May, from the Tuesday to a Saturday. And the petitioner withdrew that petition with knowing that the select board and town staff were committed to reviewing this item and to coming up with some public outreach and to understanding what this may or may not mean. So myself, Lori Shaw, Jeff Goodwin, and Mark Chambers, the chief of police, formulated a team. We also had our staff behind us to do several things. We wanted to survey the community to see what the voting preferences were. We unfortunately had a very low survey turnout. I think it was a combination of summer and people are a little bit surveyed out. We wanted to review the pros and cons of the current setup with a Tuesday election being 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., the potential of a Saturday election being 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. or some combination of hours on a Saturday, or potentially a half day of voting on Tuesday being maybe 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. We also reviewed what town facilities that we currently have that could host voting related to facilities, equipment, Wi-Fi, accessibility for residents to get there, any off-site, any non-town owned properties, which really wasn't viable. And we also surveyed our poll workers to understand would they be available to work on a Saturday versus a Tuesday. We also looked at overtime costs for facilities and police related to what the financial burden may or may not be to move from a Tuesday to a Saturday. And with the guidance of Tom Clay and Valerie Young from the school committee, we went through a series of questions and analysis. Ultimately, and as you have in your memo, we've determined that currently for the town of Westford, it is likely best to stay with the Tuesday election from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. based upon the parameters and fiscal constraints that we saw.
Yeah, and thank you for putting all that together and all the work behind it. Any questions or anything you'd like to highlight to the public as members of the board on this? Sean?
Yeah, briefly. First of all, I mean, I agree with the results, right? I mean, if as you framed it, Kristen, I think it makes sense, the conclusion that the town came to. Just of note, local elections, I wish our turnout was substantially higher. I think the last election it was 2,700 or so. Still very low compared to the amount of total registered voters. I think this is something that really has to be in the front of our mind, and I hope that this is the start of a discussion and not the end of it. I think it's worth noting, that particularly the local election is always pretty low compared to everything else. So any way that we can up those numbers and increase participation, I think we have to be thinking of that. So.
And the town clerk is committed to continuing the over-the-counter voting 2 weeks in advance.
Sure.
We now open on the evenings. She also, I believe, opened on the evenings and had some Saturday voting as well. But getting the word out and getting people to vote, I agree.
And civic
Always a
engagement
challenge.
it's a huge challenge for us and very much part of our strategy. Okay. I don't see any other questions from the board. Any questions from the audience or the public? Okay, great. Thank you for your hard work on that.
Sure.
Next up is the request to finalize the town hall hours.
Sure. So around this time last year, I came to the board with a proposal to pilot a program to look at having the town hall operating hours being Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., Tuesday, 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m., and Fridays, 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And that was really twofold. It was one, to provide members of the public an evening time that they could come and do business at town hall or call in and get staff time. And two, we were one of the only municipalities in our region that did not close on Fridays and did not have evening hours. So we piloted that from January 6th through the summertime, and I did ask for an extension to September 23rd. We've received good feedback from the staff that they're enjoying their Friday afternoons, and there is work to be done on Tuesday evenings, whether it's quiet time or engaging with members of the public. I've actually had several Tuesday evening meetings with people, and it's great for them to come in. I think there's been minimal complaints from the public. There have been some people maybe, at the door at 12 or 1:05 on a Friday trying to pay a tax bill, and we have let them in if we can do something quickly with them, or they are understanding. So I would like to ask the board to finalize those hours for the foreseeable future. I think if we see an uptick in any issues, we'd be happy to come back to the board and discuss that. And some of the other departments, I think the water department through the water commissioners have changed their front office hours as well. And I think it's a good effort by both the town staff and the public is enjoying it as well.
Any questions on this one? I'd agree, it seems like a win-win. Any questions or concerns from the board on this?
Just a quick comment. I enjoy having the later hours because, it's been great to be able to pick up the phone and have staff, when you're driving on the way home from work or you've already gotten home. So I do think that's a big win for community engagement. So, yeah, appreciate you guys thinking this through and working it out.
Great. Any other questions for the board? Public? Kristen, would you like a vote on this, or
Sure.
by consensus? Okay. Why don't we do a vote? So I'll entertain a motion to, finalize or make permanent the town hall hours as described by Kristen.
So moved.
All those in favor? Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
I'm also an aye.
Thank you.
Next up is the request of the Zoning Board of Appeals to appoint Jeffrey Valcourt from an existing alternate member to a full member with a seat expiration of June 30, 2027. Yeah, please.
So we had an unfortunate situation where a permanent member of the Zoning Board of Appeals passed away. We discussed that at a previous meeting. Jeffrey Valcourt has served as the alternate member on the Zoning Board of Appeals for a period of time and has been participating in those meetings. So the Zoning Board is requesting through you, as you are the appointing authority, to elevate that position from an alternate member to a full member. And if you do so, then we would have seats available for that alternative member through the volunteer activity form submission.
Great. Kristen, what's the length of the term?
This is to expire June 30th of 2027.
Thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board about this? Yeah, Chris?
So the board, I think, did receive an email from a resident with some current concerns about this process that the ZBA followed. Do we have any information on whether or not there were actually other applicants that were in attendance, were not given a chance to speak, and they were not evaluated at all by the members of the ZBA?
So I do not know if the ZBA has evaluated the other members. I do know that several others have put in a volunteer activity form. I think in the unique situation of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and we didn't have this conversation in our overall board and committee appointment process, is an alternate member is technically a member in training.
Correct.
And with the Zoning Board of Appeals, they are a very technical board that reviews applications and has to have a certain knowledge of Mass General Law and our zoning bylaw. So I believe that was probably part of the impetus for the ZBA asking for their alternate member to be elevated to a permanent member.
If I may. So where are we with distributing our new process? Has that gone out to all the boards?
I actually reviewed the final edits today, and one of the items that we were incorporating was what happens when an alternate this. So we have not issued it, and this was one of the items that we are reviewing as a last.
So the guidance hasn't been posted out
Correct.
officially yet.
Correct.
This is somewhat of a special circumstance, although it does sound like there should have been an opportunity for other interested parties to speak, even though there does seem like there was a very well-qualified candidate already serving as an alternate. But, okay, thank you for that.
Right, so the Zoning Board of Appeals had not received your guidance.
Right, yeah, got it. Just want to make sure that that's the case.
Yeah.
But if we haven't finalized it yet, but there may be guidance around conducting the meeting or allowing people to speak. But the general practice that we expect to continue would be if someone is serving as an alternate and has all that experience and is part of that committee already serving, that the normal practice that we would expect would be that the alternate would be elevated, and then we open up the alternate position to new people to come in.
I believe that that's the best alternative, yes.
Okay. Okay, any other, thanks, Chris. Any other questions on this? Any questions from the public? Anything online?
No.
Okay. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion to approve the request of the zoning board to appoint Jeffrey Valcourt from an existing alternate member to a full member with a seat expiration of June 30, 2027.
Second.
All those in favor? Noel?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
John? Chris?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Okay, next up, our board reports and updates. We're going to review the draft calendar for board and committee updates. While we're pulling that up, I'll just mention that I think that the select board retreat has been finalized in terms of date for the 2nd. And we will be getting some materials for us to prepare and think about how we want to spend that time together. Just one heads up is that one of the base documents that we'll be using for that discussion will be the strategic plan. So if you're hungry for homework in advance of getting any kind of planning materials before that, a good use of time would be just to take another pass through the strategic plan. Okay, Kristen.
I apologize, let me blow this up. So at your last meeting, you had asked for a listing of the boards and committees that you appoint and for them to potentially come in and give an update. And what I also considered was boards and committees that the town manager appoints and having them come in to update the select board as well and members of the public. So we have that listing here. I apologize, I'm trying to get this to view a little bit better on the screen. I'm going to stop my sharing and then reshare. So we have selected some of the dates for some of the boards and committees, but also really wanted to get your input. So if you're not ready to give that all this evening, that's totally fine. But wanted to also just give the listing of those boards and committees, and we can certainly align them in terms of like by like. We've talked about Clean Energy and Recycling Commission would likely be a good pairing to bring in together. Perhaps the Affordable Housing Trust and the Planning Board would be a good pairing to talk about housing at the same time. Perhaps there's some other good pairings that align well. One thing to note is the 300th anniversary I pushed 6 months in advance. We just formed that group, so we won't give them too much homework to come in the near future. So I think for Clean Energy and Recycling, we're looking at the 14th of October. I think this 9/9 should be 9/23. We're looking at the Economic Development Committee to come in and give their update with the Economic Development Consultant. As you can see, there are a lot of boards and committees to go through. So we can continue to work our way through this and get you a good schedule, but we provide comments and feedback.
Okay, great. So this looks like a good working document. So the first people that we already teed up are the Economic Development Committee and the Sustainability Committee and the Clean Energy Committee and the Recycling Committee. Okay, I think those are great committees to start with.
And the coloring, just so everyone's clear, the clear white is your appointments and the green is my appointments.
Just trying to figure that out. And the yellow is?
Yellow is an elected. So planning
Okay.
board is elected. And then there is a note, I think, for one of them that's joint, Commission on Disability is a joint appointment.
Okay, great. So you're working with the team to sort of further populate this. For next time, is the best input from us like a prioritization or what?
Prioritization and any clumping, I'll call it clumping or joining of what committees you feel would be well. I probably wouldn't have more than 2 committees on a night
Okay.
Unless you feel differently. And we also talked about potentially having some prompting questions that we would have them prepare in advance. So I don't know if anyone had any input on the prompt questions.
Yeah, Chris.
I don't have any input on the prompting questions, but it appears to me that there are some of these committees that are going to be working towards a deadline. So like the Route 40 Corridor Study Group, the Pedestrian Improvement Plan for the MCMOD Advisory, the Open Space and Recreation Master Plan Committee. Those are all sort of short-termers. So my feeling is we should slot them in over committees that are going to be here for years and years and
Yeah.
years, so that we can hear from them, hopefully in time to offer any feedback about what they're doing, what final deliverable they may have, or maybe, you know, it is hearing what that final deliverable is. But I do think we want to hear from some of those groups if we can.
Maybe, Kristen, if you don't mind, one suggestion would be for you to send this document out to us and ask for people to sort of express committees that they would like to prioritize. We can also ask for prompting questions. In general, the prompting questions, I think, would be things like, you know, what are the top priorities you have for the next 6 to 12 months, and what could the select board do to better support your work? I think maybe keeping it that loose might be a good idea, but if there's something other specific people would like to add, we can certainly incorporate those. But how do you feel about sending this out as a little bit of an assignment? Because I think that might be an easier way to get the
And I
input.
think the other thing is we've educated some of these board and committees very well on the strategic plan and how their work aligns with that. Some of the boards and committees we haven't gotten to yet, so we can use that as a tool as well for educating.
Okay. Well, if that makes sense, why don't people keep an eye on your inbox, and in between now and the next meeting, please take a look and suggest which you'd prioritize, and if you have any add-ons to the prompt questions, that would be appreciated. Anything else for board reports or updates tonight? Chris has some thoughts.
No, it's just, I feel like I should be saying something about something, and it's not coming to me about the recreation meeting on Monday, but no.
All right, we can come back to it if it pops in your mind.
Yep, thank you.
Kristen, town manager's report.
Sure, so one of each grant purchase order and contract. So the first is the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the fiscal year 2026 State 911 Department Support and Incentive Grant Program for Staff Training in the amount of $32,354.54 as requested by the Public Safety and Communications Department. A purchase order for Sanofi Pasteur for the 2025 flu vaccines in the amount of $35,634 as requested by the Health Department. And a contract for Rollins Counseling Center LLC for mobile behavioral health clinical services in the amount of $39,500 as requested by the town manager's office. Just a note, we had a mobile behavioral health clinician. Unfortunately, that person unfortunately passed away, and we were without these services for quite some time. So we're happy to finally get a consultant service back on board for those mobile clinician services.
Any questions about these yet, Chris?
This is different than what Chief Chambers was talking about.
Yes, it is different.
Right, okay.
Right, so the ride-along services with the IMA that we have with AIR is different. So that is just for police. This is for when any resident is needs a mobile clinician to come to their home if they're homebound, unable to get out.
So for behavioral needs.
Correct.
Specifically,
Yes,
okay.
that is correct.
And how does one take advantage of those?
So Nicole Laviolette would help coordinate that. She's our community wellness coordinator.
So people who are interested would call her office.
That's
and
correct.
arrange it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other questions on these?
Is it something that people would get referred to? Like, I'm sorry, what the police might refer to our community wellness coordinator type thing? Or?
So I'm going to have Nicole Laviolette
Yeah.
is on the line. I'm
Oh,
going to
great.
have her be
Okay.
promoted.
Thank
Mike
you.
just reminded me. Thank you.
I
So
always like to hear from her, so.
she can.
Hi, Nicole.
May take a second, but she's there. Nicole?
Hey, Nicole.
Hello.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sound great. So the question I think was how do referrals work, Nicole? Could a first responder or could people calling into the town, how do people who need to access the service get connected with it?
Sure. So we have received referrals as far as self-referrals, school guidance counselors, pediatric offices. We receive referrals through hospitals. It's really whoever best feels comfortable referring. You can refer yourself, you can refer a family member. So really it's a gap service with the long wait lists that occur with mental health services. Pediatric or adolescent child counseling could be 3 to 6 months for counseling services. Depending upon your insurance, it can be almost up to a year. So this service is a gap service where counseling can occur, tools and skills can be developed and created to support the family or the resident or the individual while they're waiting for long-term services. Alice and Christopher and I both can take referrals from any of those people I just mentioned, and we can also do a short screening to see if the service is appropriate or if there's other services that might be more appropriate for the resident or family.
Great. Great, thanks, Nicole.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Kristen on these contract items? Okay, not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion to approve the grants, purchase orders, and contracts as appear in our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, Noel?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Any questions about correspondence? Before I entertain a motion to waive the reading of correspondence. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of correspondence.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, Chris?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Noel?
Aye.
I'm also an aye, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, Noel?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Chris?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. Thank you, Westford. Have a good night. Stay safe.